What's up, fellas? It's your main man back on the scene with another video. Let's check this one out. Why successful men use escorts. What rich and the beautiful have in common. So let's see what he has to say. I haven't watched this one yet. It popped up on my feed a few days ago. Let's get into it. Let's check it out.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is why successful men use escorts. This is the first part in a three-part series on this.
I'm going to say time. They don't want to spend a lot of time doing all that talking and convincing to get chicks that are basically used up anyway.
Subject. So you'll need to be patient to hear the whole story. I'm going to begin this talk by explicitly stating this is not an endorsement for prostitution. Personally, I have never hired an escort or a prostitute in my life. Liars! And to be honest, when I was younger, I used to be very judgmental with respect to the men who did. In so many words, I thought such men must be losers who, for whatever reason, couldn't otherwise get access to women unless they paid for it. And while I'm sure there are some unattractive or even some revolting...
I won't say it's not true. Maybe in some cases that's true. Some guys... Well, I have a scale. I break it down to 3 different lanes. Get a handsome lane, average, below average. Handsome would be 9 or 7, 8, 9s. Average would be 4, 5, 6. Below average would be 1, 2, 3. Some guys can't pull good looking chicks, or they just can't pull any at all because they don't look good enough to do it. That's just how it is. So I understand that. So I would say in some cases that is true. But what do you expect them to do? Not get anything for the rest of their life?
Men who use prostitutes for this reason, I actually don't believe they constitute the majority of an escort's clients. In fact, I've since radically changed my opinion of these men, in part due to numerous conversations I've had with men who have used escorts, and in part due to my own experiences in the sexual...
I remember he had that low opinion of the passport bros. While some of them are tricks, the reality is when you leave the West, the women do act a lot different. They are a lot easier to deal with. It's just a fact.
Marketplace as I've become more successful. Though I can't say that I endorse the use of escorts, I can certainly understand it. And this talk is specifically addressed to women to help them comprehend the types of problems unique to highly successful men, who are presumably the kind of men they would most like to target for a long-term relationship. By understanding how the economics of dating change as a function of success, women can better position themselves to secure the type of men with whom they most want.
And it also could be financial. I'd say an escort and maid service is cheaper than a wife. Think about it.
To mate and date, provided they, like me, can move past the reflexive judgment they may carry with respect to the topic under consideration. Let's get to it. The fact of the matter is, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, the higher your normalized sexual marketplace value, the more traditional dating becomes increasingly expensive. In fact, the most attractive women and the most successful men often end up pricing themselves out of the dating market. This is why, for example, it's probably best for a woman to be like an 8.5. If you're an 8.5, you're definitely attractive enough to get plenty of attention and preferential treatment. However,
yeah, a lot of guys feel that way, self-included. You don't want the baddest chick. I mean, they look good, but what comes with that is something you don't want to deal with for the rest of your life. It just isn't. I'm going to say the majority of them are monetized. They're for the streets. You can't do nothing with that.
Because you're not like a world-class beauty, you actually avoid a lot of the downsides and liabilities associated with being fabulously attractive. These are problems that less attractive women don't even know exist and never have to deal with. They might roll their eyes at this suite of problems and say, oh,
That's another thing that I think about. Handsome men can't tell unattractive men how to get chicks because they don't know what it's like to not be able to get them. And what works for them doesn't work for the unattractive man or the non-select man. Shout out to Obsidian.
poor baby, can't handle being beautiful. I wish I had her problems. But frankly, that's really an envy reaction. The problems of really beautiful women are real problems. They're not problems of survival, but if we're honest, neither are the problems that their haters are contending with. Beautiful women receive little to no sympathy for their difficulties, not because their difficulties aren't real, but because there are so few other people who have experienced them. The same thing holds true for men. The sweet spot for being a man is probably earning high 6, low 7 figures a year. That is more than enough to provide a comfortable and enjoyable lifestyle for yourself and your family. Anything more than that, and men start to deal with a suite of problems that less successful men don't even know exist and never have to deal with. And if anyone garners more unearned hatred than the beautiful, it's the wealthy. People scoff at the champagne problems of the rich, but the problems of really successful men are real problems. And these men experience even less sympathy for their difficulties than beautiful women do.
I think people just be hating on them because they don't have what the rich guy has. You know, like, oh, you don't have any real problems, you're rich. It's not true. What did Biggie say? More money, more problems?
Not because their difficulties aren't real, but because there are so few other people who have experienced them. Now, you might think that being a highly successful man would be a wonderful liability in the sexual marketplace, and you would be correct. After all, if a man has wealth and status and fame, he typically enjoys very good optionality with women. So why would a man like this use escorts? It isn't as though there is a dearth of women who would be interested in dating him. Is it really true that all these...
What did Charlie Sheen say? I'll pay them to leave. Time. You don't want to be bothered with all that. Trying to make her happy, spending time with her and all that. Some guys don't want to be bothered with that.
These men are just immature narcissists.
You know, you can't make anybody happy.
Expectation of women. Or might there be another explanation for this not uncommon behavior among this particular demographic? But before I answer these questions, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. You can also hit the thanks button and tip me in proportion to the value you feel you've derived from this episode. I'm proud to announce that my book, The Value of Others, is now available for pre-sale on Amazon. It'll be released in just a few days, so take action now to get your hands on it. I'm also writing original content for my free weekly newsletter. If you'd like to sign up, you can do so on my website. Finally, please fill out an inquiry form on my website if you're interested in booking a paid consultation. The links to everything I just talked about are in the description below, so check them out. All right, let's get back to it. The reason why so many of these top-tier men use prostitutes is because it becomes prohibitively expensive to date traditionally once you cross a certain point. Let's examine why this might be the case. One of my good friends is a corporate lawyer, and he bills his time at $1,300 an hour.
Looks like he's going to say the same thing I said. Let's check it out.
That may sound like a lot, but it's kind of the going rate for a partner at a top-tier law firm. By the same token, there are folks in my space online who charge $2,000 to $3,000 an hour for a consultation. And then you get into the rarefied realm of bank presidents, celebrities, tycoons, and professional athletes who can easily command tens of thousands of dollars or more for an hour of their time. However, to make this talk more accessible, let's just use the lawyer's rate as the standard of measurement. So let's assume a man is making $1,300 an hour, like my friend. In the traditional dating pipeline, what would be expected of him? Well, first, he'd have to spend some time making something happen. Maybe he has to go out to a bar on a Saturday night and rizz up a girl. And this is hardly a sure thing, even at the local meat market, so he'll have to have the energy and the emotional resilience to deal with the rejection that inevitably stands between him and an actual prospect. Or he'll have to spend time creating a dating profile on an app that won't land him in the invisible 90% functionally ignored by all women, and swiping on hundreds of accounts in order to get some matches. Either way, once he succeeds in getting a number, he'll need to spend more time playing the...
There it is. Time. It's time. They don't have time, or let's say, time and desire to be going through all that when they have more important things to do.
The text game, in order to help the woman feel sufficiently safe and sufficiently attractive, which is not an easy balance to strike, to meet up for an actual date. Of course, he'll be expected to plan the date, which will almost certainly...
Yeah, it sounds like another job. That's what I'm saying. Nobody wants to go through all that. Or if you had the escort, you know you're going to get what you want because you don't know if you're dating a date hoe. Or should I say, date hoes? You spend all that time and money on her, feeding her. You get a peck on the cheek or a pat on the head, and she's plowing the shit out of some other guy after you drop her off. Nobody wants to deal with that shit, man.
Occur at some neutral location, as opposed to his house, several days or even weeks out. On the date, he'll be expected to cover all the expenses, but as we'll see, this is the most inexpensive part of dating for him. The meeting itself will probably last 2, maybe 3 hours, with potentially an hour of commuting to and from the location. So he likely has to block off an entire evening, and busy, successful men may only get 1 evening off a week, if that. And given all this time and effort and expense, there is, of course, absolutely no guarantee that the man will even be attracted to the woman in question, let alone succeed in securing a sexual encounter. And irrespective of the moral or ethics involved, this is frustrating because since men attempt to exchange resources...
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You don't want to... These guys don't want to go through all that. Am I going to like chick when I get there? Am I going to eventually get the booty or not? The escort is guaranteed. So I get it. That's why I don't look down on people that do that. I understand why they do. A lot of guys, oh man, he's a trick. He's a trick. You guys are thinking on a street level. When you start moving up in society, what's important to you don't matter to those guys. They don't care about that. Yeah, my talk game is tight. I have to get the gab, my mouthpiece.
What's valuable to you have is your mouth. If the rap is strong, it can't go wrong.
They don't care about that. They don't have time for that. They're making real money.
This is for sexual opportunity in the sexual marketplace. This is why he's there. So even if we ignore all the monetary expenses associated with the date itself, which are potentially not insignificant, a 3-hour date bookended by an hour of travel at $1,300 an hour is $5,200. This means this guy is paying $5,000 in terms of the cost to his time to go on a date with you. And this does not include any of the time and effort that went into securing the date. This may come as a shock, but most women do not just show up into a man's life with an intention to make his life easier. For most men, it's a lot of fucking work to get sex and relationships from women.
There it is. The effort. They don't want to be bothered with that. Look how much money they're losing to get with a chick. And they might not get with her. They might be wasting their time. She could be one of those date hoes going out on a date to get a free meal. There's a lot of that out there.
You hear a lot about the emotional labor that women perform for men. But it's absolutely true that men perform a great deal of emotional labor for women. It's just that the man's labor typically has to do with getting laid and securing and maintaining the relationship. To do this, men often have to be charming or funny or cool. They have to stimulate your emotions and arouse your attraction. They have to listen to you talk about your day and care about the woman inside your body. And they have to do all this without giving the slightest impression that this is in any way work for them, or that they could possibly want to do literally anything else with their time and attention. Because if you get the impression that they're just doing this because it works, and not because they authentically want to do it, you won't fuck them. This is not easy to do. Even the most successful Casanovas strike out more often than they get on base. Women are extremely...
That's true. You're going to get more no's than yes. There's a lot of effort behind that. And again, I get it. You don't want to spend time doing that. A lot of guys just check out from that. It's like, why? There's nothing coming out of it. They're spending a lot of time and effort, money, and time is the most valuable asset there is. to get a pat on the head.
Complex, and most men do not even begin to approach an understanding of how you operate. In any case, dating you requires a lot of time, energy, money, and emotional resilience. And if you're working 80 hours a week, you just might not have the bandwidth for that. Dating just feels like another job, but a job that you pay to work. I understand that women have their own frustrations with the dating process, but that's not.
That's important what he said. I agree with it. This is why I don't look down on guys that use escort service. I used to. But as you climb the corporate ladder, I used to do a lot of projects, I understand why you would take that route. It was time, especially when I was doing projects. You didn't really have time for all that. Wine and dine, go out on a date, and never see the chick ever again. Women have brought this on themselves. Anyways, fellas, this your main man. If you haven't already, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll see you brothers in the next video. Peace.